Darkness creeps across the cobblestone streets of early 19th century Charleston, South Carolina. Flickering gas lamps throw dancing shadows on ivy-covered walls. The night air hangs thick with humidity and something else, something heavier. In the still of night, travelers whisper warnings. A mysterious inn just outside the city. A beautiful woman with a beguiling smile. A bed that swallows men whole. Welcome to the haunting legend of Lavinia Fisher, the woman history remembers as America's first female serial killer. But was she truly a murderer, or the scapegoat of myth and misogyny? In today's deep dive, we'll journey through the foggy past to uncover the truth behind Lavinia Fisher, separating sinister fact from enduring folklore. We'll examine the forensic evidence, speak to historians and criminologists, and explore the chilling psychology of a woman who may have charmed her victims straight to their graves. To understand Lavinia Fisher's rise and fall, we first need to step back in time. Charleston in the early 1800s was a bustling, wealthy port city, known for its plantations, trade, and polite Southern society. But beneath its charming surface, the city was steeped in crime, corruption, and fear. Slavery was booming, poverty was widespread, and justice was something only the rich could afford. In this world, Lavinia Fisher emerged, a woman with no clear backstory. Born around 1793, her early life remained shrouded in mystery. There are no birth records, no known parents, no concrete evidence of her origins. What we do know is that she married John Fisher, a man whose reputation would soon rival her own. Together, they ran a boarding house just 6 miles outside Charleston, a place known ominously as the 6 Mile Wayfarer House. To the public, they were a respectable couple. To travelers, they were hospitable innkeepers, but to those who survived the night, they were death dealers. Perched just outside the city limits, the 6 Mile Wayfarer House was more than an inn, it was a trap. Travelers weary from the long southern roads would find themselves welcomed by Lavinia's gracious hospitality. She was described as elegant, beautiful, and persuasive. Eyewitness accounts said she would engage men in flirtatious conversation, offer them tea, and inquire about their finances. According to legend, if she deemed a guest wealthy and unaccompanied, she would spike their tea with a poison, possibly oleander, a native toxic plant, or even laudanum, a common but potent opiate. If the poison didn't kill them outright, it would at least render them unconscious. What happened next is where the stories grow darker. Some say John Fisher and his accomplices would rob the incapacitated guest and dispose of the body in the woods. Others claim Lavinia had designed a mechanical bed, a trapdoor mattress that would collapse, sending the sleeping victim tumbling into a pit below. While there is no surviving mechanical evidence, these chilling accounts persisted for years, and they set the stage for Lavinia's fall. 1819 marked a turning point. Complaints about missing travelers had been growing, but little had been done until 2 men escaped the Fishers' clutches and lived to tell the tale. David Ross was the first. He claimed that upon arriving at the inn, he was assaulted by a gang, barely escaping with his life. His report reached Charleston authorities, who began to take the complaints more seriously. The second, and more crucial, survivor was John Peoples. Peoples was a well-dressed man traveling alone who stopped at the 6 Mile house. Lavinia greeted him warmly and offered him tea. Suspicious of her overly eager demeanor, Peoples poured the tea out when she wasn't looking. That night, unable to sleep, he remained awake in bed. Suddenly, the bed beneath him creaked and lurched, nearly collapsing. Realizing something was horribly wrong, he leapt from the bed and fled into the night. Peoples' account would become central to the Fishers' arrest. It wasn't just a robbery anymore. It was an attempted murder. Charleston officials raided the 6 Mile Wayfarer House shortly after Peoples' escape. What they found was a scene out of a Gothic horror novel. There were reports of secret trapdoors, blood-stained floors, and a network of tunnels beneath the inn. While there were no human remains discovered at the time, investigators found stolen belongings, personal effects from missing travelers, and several weapons. John and Lavinia Fisher were arrested and charged with highway robbery, a crime punishable by death. Forensic historians believe the lack of bodies at the site may be due to decomposition and animal interference, or even removal prior to the raid. At the time, criminal investigations lacked the tools of modern forensic science. No fingerprinting, no DNA, no cadaver dogs, just testimonies and circumstantial evidence. But it was enough. The trial of Lavinia and John Fisher became one of Charleston's most infamous events. Held in 1820, it attracted crowds eager to witness the downfall of a woman who had once charmed the city. Lavinia, ever defiant, maintained her innocence, portraying herself as a dutiful wife wrongfully accused. But the evidence, albeit largely circumstantial, overwhelmed her defense. The belongings of missing men, the witness testimonies, the failed murder attempt on Peoples, all pointed to guilt. What sealed her fate, according to legal experts, was the charge of highway robbery. In 19th century South Carolina, that alone carried the death penalty. Criminologist Dr. Elaine Foster explains, even if she never killed a soul, the court only had to prove that she lured travelers under false pretenses and allowed her husband to rob them. That was enough. Lavinia and John were sentenced to hang. The Fishers were held in the old Charleston jail while they awaited execution. The jail, now known as one of the most haunted locations in America, was a fortress of despair. During her time there, Lavinia grew increasingly erratic. Some say she wrote cryptic letters and became violent with guards. Others say she calmly accepted her fate, convinced she would be rescued by friends in high places. But when the day of execution came, Lavinia shocked the crowd. Wearing her white wedding dress, she was led to the gallows. As the noose was placed around her neck, she screamed to the crowd, "If any of you have a message for the devil, give it to me, and I'll carry it myself." Then she leapt from the platform before the executioner could release the trap. Her body hung in the wind, the crowd stood silent, and a legend was born. After their deaths, the 6 Mile Wayfarer House was demolished. The land was sold, and no physical trace remains. But Lavinia's story didn't die. Over the decades, the tale of the seductive murderess who poisoned and trapped her victims became local folklore. Charleston ghost tours frequently cite her spirit as one of the most active in the old jail. Visitors claim to hear her scream, feel icy cold spots, and even see a woman in white glaring from the shadows. Paranormal investigator Marcus Bell recounts, "We've had people faint during our tours. There's a weight in Lavinia's cell you can feel. Whether it's her or the power of belief, it's there." Here's where the story becomes complicated. Many historians now question whether Lavinia Fisher was actually a serial killer. There were no confirmed murders, no bodies, no forensic evidence directly linking her to murder. Dr. Caroline Masters, a historian specializing in gender and crime, suggests Lavinia may have been a criminal, yes, but a killer? That part of the story grew with time. People love to demonize women who defy norms. A beautiful woman who may have helped rob travelers? The public was ready to turn her into a monster. And yet, the consistency of the survivor testimonies, the number of missing persons tied to the inn, and Lavinia's own chilling final words continue to spark debate. Perhaps the truth lies somewhere in between. A woman caught in crime, mythologized by history. If Lavinia did kill, what drove her? Forensic psychologist Dr. Harold Green posits, Lavinia's case fits what we now understand as a Black Widow type. Calculated, seductive, using emotional intelligence to manipulate victims. Whether from desperation, thrill-seeking, or sociopathy, female killers often disguise violence behind charm. Lavinia's outward persona, friendly, beautiful, refined, allowed her to get close to victims who would never suspect a thing. The idea of the female predator terrified early America. Women weren't supposed to be violent, and that fear is what turned Lavinia from a footnote into a folk legend. So, who was Lavinia Fisher? A cold-blooded killer who preyed on the innocent, or a woman buried by sensationalism and fear? We may never know the full truth, but her legend, her ghost, and her final defiant words continue to haunt Charleston and the pages of America's criminal history. If you enjoyed this deep dive into one of history's most infamous women, don't forget to like, share, and subscribe. We have more true crime stories, eerie legends, and unsolved mysteries coming your way. Until next time, stay curious and maybe double-check that tea before you drink it.